Hey, this is the second portion of the video I'm doing on the Democratic debate, and I'm critiquing each statement by each candidate.
To Leanne Walters. This is Leanne Walters. She was one of the first people to report problems with the water in Flint. One of her twin boys stopped growing. Her daughter lost her hair. She says she's undecided and has a question for both of you to answer, but we'll start with Senator Sanders. Ms. Walters.
After my family, the city of Flint, and the children in D.C. were poisoned by lead, will you make a personal promise to me right now that as president in your first 100 days in office, you will make it a requirement that all public water systems must remove all lead service lines throughout the entire United States and notification made to the citizens that have said service lines?
I will make a personal promise to you that the EPA and the EPA director that I appoint will make sure that every water system in the United States of America is tested and that the people of those communities know the quality of the water that they are drinking, and that we are going to have a plan to rebuild water systems in this country that are unsafe for drinking.
Let me just point out, for accuracy's sake, there are 10 million lead service pipes delivering water to people all across this country tonight. Secretary Clinton?
Well, I agree completely. I want to go further, though. I want us to have an absolute commitment to getting rid of lead wherever it is, because it's not only in water systems, it's also in soil, and it's in lead paint that is found mostly in older homes. That's why 500,000 children today have lead in their bodies. So I want to do exactly what you said. We will commit to a priority to change the water systems, and we will commit within 5 years to remove lead from everywhere. We were making progress on this in the 1990s. I worked with then Senator Obama to get more money, more support to do more to remove lead.
Thank you.
That has, unfortunately, been, in many ways, moved to a lower priority. I will elevate it, and I will do everything I can. Water, soil, and paint.
Thank you.
We're going to get rid of it.
Thank you, Secretary.
Okay, her answer was stronger than his. She gave a commitment to get rid of all lead. He kind of danced around the lead situation. She did make one slip up. She did not work with Senator Obama in the 90s to remove lead. She worked with Senator Obama in the 2000s in order to work on the lead situation. But all in all, her answer obviously was much stronger than Sanders' answer on this.
My colleague Don Lemon.
Anderson, thank you very much. Secretary Clinton, tonight you called for the resignation or for Governor Snyder to be recalled. There are residents of this city who want to see criminal charges brought against those who are responsible. Do you think people should go to jail?
Well, that's going to be up to the legal system, Don. I mean, I can't standing here, I don't have all the facts, but people should be held accountable wherever that leads. If it leads to resignation or recall, if you're in political office, if it leads to civil penalties, if it leads to criminal responsibility, there has to be an absolute accountability, and I will support whatever the outcome of those investigations are.
Senator Sanders, do you think people should go to jail?
Well, I agree. We can't sit up here. I can't sit up here and make judgment over whether or not somebody committed a criminal act. But I will tell you this, that after an investigation, if people in fact were found to have committed a criminal act, I talked to a mother. Imagine this for a second, a mother who had a bright 7-year-old gregarious girl doing well in school. 2 years later, that child is now in special education, intellectual capability significantly deteriorated. That is a crime against that child and the people of Flint, and clearly people are going to have to be held accountable.
Okay, now she kind of danced around it somewhat, and he missed an opportunity here. He stated that there was a crime committed against the child or the children in Flint, which is going to affect them for the rest of their lives. Normally when crimes are committed, people are prosecuted and go to jail. So he said there was a crime committed. Translation, people need to go to jail. He didn't have any problem later on talking about the Wall Street guys committing a crime against the country as far as the economy was concerned, and not one person going to jail. He stated there was a crime there. In this particular case, again, there was a crime committed against the city of Flint, Michigan, and he should have said that somebody needs to go to jail.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Secretary. I want to turn now to Bryn Nichols, the editor of the Flint Journal. He's our local partner in this debate, and he has our next question.
Bryn?
Secretary Clinton, it took this water crisis for politicians like yourselves to notice we are in a city in trouble. You've only both recently started talking about Flint, holding campaign events here in just the past few weeks. Secretary Clinton, you've even made the crisis the centerpiece of a new campaign ad. Why should the people of Flint believe that you aren't just using this crisis to score political points?
Well, I think because throughout my public career, I have been evening the odds for people in every way that I could. I started out with the Children's Defense Fund. I worked throughout my time as a young lawyer, as a person, an activist, certainly in Arkansas, then in the White House, to try to fix problems wherever I saw them. And this problem is one that is particularly outrageous and painful at the same time. So when I heard about it, I immediately sent people here to find out what was going on. It was almost unbelievable. We have this problem in other places, but we don't say that it was actually caused by decisions made by public officials in positions of authority, as this one was. Then when I talked to the mayor, I basically said, what can I do to help? Then when I came here and I met with some of the mothers and met their children and heard their stories, I'm just determined to do whatever I can. So I have put together resources from the private and philanthropic communities to help provide a bridge, because you've got to get the federal money, you've got to get the state money, but I'm going to do everything I can, and I will be with Flint all the way through this crisis in whatever capacity I am. And if I'm president, it will always be a priority for action from me.
That was an A answer. She connects with the people. Yeah, could you have considered it somewhat political? Yeah, you probably could have. But she has actually come into the city of Flint and actually done something, tried to take some type of an action. She connected with the mayor of Flint. So she gets an A to an A+ on her answer, her response, and her advisors get A+ because they were the ones that picked up on this and got her on this, particularly given that Flint is considered a black community, though it has a very, very large black community. It's not like overwhelmingly black. Now let's go to Sanders.
Bryn has a follow-up.
Senator Sanders, what about you? Your first visit to Flint as a presidential candidate was just over a week ago. That's almost 5 months after the people here were told to stop drinking the water. What took you so long?
Well, first of all, it's not quite accurate. I was here longer before that. And I'll tell you what I did. What I did is meet very quietly in Detroit with parents and others who were impacted by this disaster. And the second thing that I did is hold a town meeting, which was as non-political as I could make it, for hundreds of people to tell me and the world through the media exactly what was happening here in Flint. I think the fear, and the legitimate fear of the people of Flint, is that at a certain point the TV cameras and CNN is going to disappear. And then people are going to be left struggling in order to live in a safe and healthy community. All I can say is, if you check my record going back a long time, I have stood with those who are hurting. I have stood with those who have no money, and I have taken on virtually every powerful special interest in the United States of America. That's my record. I'm proud of it.
All right, that's a B+ to an A- answer. The reason Clinton gets an A+ on this is because she actually came herself into Flint and took some type of action. She had a presence there, even though Bernie did come to Detroit and bring, I guess, Flint people to Detroit to have a town hall meeting. His was less publicized because it was less, it was made less of a political football. But yeah, I've been keeping up on the Flint situation, and yeah, he did hold a town hall meeting, and what he did was he had the meeting and he didn't really speak that much. He listened to what the residents of Flint were saying. But again, I have to give it to Clinton. She's an A+ because it's action versus just listening, listening and doing a bit of talk.
Senator. This city is also facing a jobs crisis. 75% of Flint's manufacturing jobs have been lost in the last 25 years. In about the same amount of time, Michigan has lost 230,000 manufacturing jobs. I want to go to Tanisha Martin. She grew up here in Flint, but she now works in Detroit at the Shinola Watch Factory, which, as you know, is often held up as the blueprint for how to save American industry jobs. She says she's leaning towards Secretary Clinton, and she has a question for her.
A lot of members of my family worked in the auto industry here in Flint. That's ultimately what I wanted to do once I got out of school, but unfortunately I was unable to get any one of the big three. And that's why I now reside at Shinola. If you're elected president, what are you going to do to convince factories to keep the jobs here in the United States instead of sending them overseas to other countries?
Secretary.
I'm going to do what I think will work, which is both carrots and sticks. And let me talk about the carrots. We're going to have a very clear set of proposals and incentives for manufacturing so that we change the way that companies think about making investments again in America. I have a comprehensive manufacturing plan that I will be implementing. We're also going to invest more in infrastructure, as we both have said. It's woefully under-resourced. That will put a lot of people to work. I want to do more to help small businesses. They are the source of 2/3 of our jobs. We've got to help them start and grow, particularly minority and women-owned small businesses. We need to do more to help create clean energy as a source of good jobs. But I'm also going to go after companies. You know, when a company decides to leave, like Nabisco is leaving, and they've gotten tax benefits from Chicago and Illinois to stay there, I'm going to claw back those benefits. They're going to have to pay them back if they're leaving a place that actually invested in them. I'm also going to go after companies like Johnson Controls in Wisconsin. They came and got part of the bailout because they were an auto parts supplier. Now they want to move some of their headquarters to Europe. They're going to have to pay an exit fee. We're going to stop this kind of job exporting, and we're going to start importing and growing jobs again in our country.
Now, I like everything that she said, and note, she made a connection to Michigan and Wisconsin as far as jobs leaving, also Chicago, as far as job leaving and what she would do to nail those companies. Now let's see what Bernie has to say.
Mr. Sanders, I'll let you. Yeah.
I am very glad, Anderson, that Secretary Clinton has discovered religion on this issue. But it's a little bit too late. Secretary Clinton supported virtually every one of these disastrous trade agreements written by corporate America. NAFTA, supported by the Secretary, cost us 800,000 jobs nationwide, tens of thousands of jobs in the Midwest. Permanent normal trade relations with China cost us millions of jobs. Look, I was on a picket line in the early 1990s against NAFTA because you didn't need a PhD in economics to understand that American workers should not be forced to compete against people in Mexico making 25 cents an hour. And the reason that I was one of the first, not one of the last, to be in opposition to the TPP is that American workers should not be forced to compete against people in Vietnam today making a minimum wage of 65 cents an hour. Look, what we have got to do is tell corporate America that they cannot continue to shut down. We've lost 60,000 factories since 2001. They're going to start having to, if I'm president, invest in this country, not in China, not in Mexico.
Senator Clinton.
Well, I'll tell you something else that Senator Sanders was against. He was against the auto bailout. In January of 2009, President-elect Obama asked everybody in the Congress to vote for the bailout. The money was there and had to be released in order to save the American auto industry and 4 million jobs, and to begin the restructuring. We just had the best year that the auto industry has had in a long time. I voted to save the auto industry. He voted against the money that ended up saving the auto industry. I think that is a pretty big difference.
Well, if you are talking about the Wall Street bailout, where some of your friends destroyed this economy,
you know...
Excuse me, I'm talking.
Let him respond.
Okay, that's a section everybody's talking about as far as him, quote unquote, supposedly being dismissive of her, but she was being rude to him. So he, in my opinion, he had the right to stop her from trying to cut him off.
If you're going to talk, tell the whole story, Senator
Let
Sanders.
me tell my story, you tell yours.
I will.
Your story is for voting for every disastrous trade agreement and voting for corporate America. Did I vote against the Wall Street bailout? When billionaires on Wall Street destroyed this economy, they went to Congress and they said, oh, please, we'll be good boys, bail us out. You know what I said? I said, let the billionaires themselves bail out Wall Street. Shouldn't be the middle class of this country.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait, can I finish? You'll have your turn. All right, but ultimately, if you look at our records, I stood up to corporate America time and time again. I went to Mexico. I saw the lives of people who are working in American factories and making 25 cents an hour. I understood that these trade agreements were going to destroy the middle class of this country. I led the fight against us. That is one of the major differences that we have.
Well, if I could, to set the record straight, I voted against the only multinational trade agreement that came before me when I was in the Senate. It was called CAFTA. I came out against the TPP. After it was finished, I thought it was reasonable to actually know what was in it before I opposed it. I oppose it. Now let me get back to what happened in January of 2009. The Bush administration negotiated the deal. Were there things in it that I didn't like? Would I have done it differently? Absolutely. But was the auto bailout money in it? The $350 billion that was needed to begin the restructuring of the auto industry? Yes, it was. So when I talk about Senator Sanders being a one-issue candidate, I mean very clearly, you have to make hard choices when you're in positions of responsibility. The two senators from Michigan stood on the floor and said, we have to get this money released. I went with them, and I went with Barack Obama. You did not. If everybody had voted the way he did, I believe the auto industry would have collapsed, taking 4 million jobs with it.
Game, set, and match for Clinton. Bernie, you got to know the audience that you're talking to, and they could give two shits about bailing out Wall Street if you're not going to take care of the auto industry that would have decimated them and the entire state of Michigan and probably the country. And I'm going to stop this right here to jump to the next portion of the next section of the video.